Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to explain a romantic comedy movie called Mischief. Let's begin. The film begins in 1956 in a small town named Ohio. Here we see a boy named Jonathan. And Jonathan has a crush on Marlin, a hot girl at his school. But he is a shy and timid type of boy. And he doesn't have that much courage. So that he can propose to Merlin. And on this, a friend of Jonathan is making fun of him inside the car. Merlin is then seen passing by. And on his way to see her, Jonathan's car crashes into a fire hydrant. After this, he comes home and he sees that a new boy has come to live in their neighborhood, whose name is Gene. And he seems quite careless with his antics. And later we see that he was going around the city on his bike, but suddenly his bike collided with the car of a boy named Kenny. And Gene falls. Then Kenny was with his girlfriend Bunny. And Jonathan falls in love with the bunny as soon as he sees her. On the other hand, Kenny was only concerned about his car. And he leaves from there taking Bunny with him. And Jonathan is watching all these things. And some time later, Jonathan visits Gene. And both become friends. Gene was completely different from Jonathan. He says that in the previous school he was caught intimate with two girls, which caused him to be expelled from the school, and the other side, Jonathan is still a virgin. Gene asks Jonathan where he will find the most beautiful girl in town, and Jonathan takes him to the town fair in the evening. He sees his crush Merlin and Bunny both there. Then both of them are in a stall, where the number that appears on spinning the wheel can kiss the girl of that number. When Jonathan spins the wheel, then the number of a girl named Rosalie comes. But Jonathan doesn't like that girl. When Gene then spins the wheel, he gets Marilyn's number. And he kisses her. And seeing this makes Jonathan very jealous. And with Jonathan's money, Gene spins the wheel again. This time it's Bunny's turn, and Gene kisses her too. And later on seeing Gene, both Merlin and Bunny start liking Gene. Jonathan later tells Gene that he is deeply in love with Marilyn. And listening to this they say Gene's that within a month he will see Merlin making you his girlfriend. Then they both bet on it. Then the next day at school, Gene tells Jonathan that he has to keep looking into Marilyn's eyes, but when Marilyn comes here, Jonathan slips by looking at her. Then there is Bunny's boyfriend, Kenny, who is very rich. He threatens Jonathan. Seeing this, Gene tells Jonathan that he has to learn to fight for himself. During class, Jonathan pretends to pick up his pen and stares at Marilyn's legs. Then the teacher sees him doing this and asks him to stand up. As soon as he stands up, everyone starts laughing at him. And after school, Gene sends Jonathan to talk to Marilyn again. But Jonathan pushes his bicycle into a car in front of them. And seeing that he is badly hurt, Merlin also comes to him and starts cleaning his blood. And seeing Merlin so close, he cannot control himself and touches Merlin's chest. But Merlin does not get angry seeing his actions. On the contrary, she smiles at them. The next day, Gene talks to Bunny. And she learns that she doesn't consider Kenny as her boyfriend. And after some time Merlin also comes there. And asks Gene to go to the movie. And Gene also agrees to go with him. But Jonathan feels bad seeing all this. Gene persuades him to even touch Merlin as he likes Bunny. Then Gene has an idea. And he tells Bunny to go with Jonathan. Then in the evening all four go to watch a movie. Meanwhile, Marilyn tries to get too close to Gene, and Jonathan, on the other hand, doesn't like to sit with Bunny. Just then, some of Kenny's friends see Bunny with Jonathan and go over to Kenny and tell him that his girlfriend is on a date with someone else. When Gene and Jonathan leave the cinema hall, then Kenny starts hitting Jonathan. Gene says Jonathan did nothing and brings Bunny here. Hearing this, Kenny calls out to Gene to fight. Kenny thought that Gene would be scared, but Gene arrives at the place, after which Kenny asks to play a game with Gene. That both will drive their cars fast towards each other. The one who moves out of the way first will lose, but it takes long time for both to move out of the way and both the cars collide from side to side and the condition of the car becomes bad. Seeing this, Kenny gets angry and a fight starts between Kenny and Gene. Then the police also come here. Seeing whom all the people run here and there, but if the car of Gene was not starting, then those people are caught. All of them were warned by the police and left home. When Gene's father learns that Gene caused the accident in his car, he slaps Gene in front of everyone and prevents her from leaving the house. Just in the evening, Jonathan secretly visits Gene in her room and the two drink wine and go for a ride in Gene's bike. Gene tells Jonathan that after his mother's death, his father often beat him. After some time a policeman catches them and finds that both are drunk, then asks them to take their bike home on foot. Along the way, they also find Kenny's father's department store, which was the biggest in the city. And to get revenge on Kenny, by placing all the figurines in the Gene and Jonathan store in erotic positions. They leave from there, and then in the morning when everyone sees those idols in a sensual state. So everyone jokes a lot. Bunny visits Gene at school and the two make plans to meet for the evening. Meanwhile, Merlin has been watching Bunny Jean get closer from afar, which makes Merlin feel very bad because Merlin also liked Jean. Jean takes a part-time job at a gas station repairing his father's car. Jean approaches Jonathan and reminds him of Marilyn's bet, that he should ask Merlin directly. Now Jonathan knew as well. She tells Marilyn to dissuade her, but she nevertheless invites him to do makeup for Jean, and Marilyn agrees to go on a date with him. After this, both Jean and Bunny's relationship starts going well. And Marilyn is having a ton of fun with Jonathan, too. One day, the four of them go out for a walk, and Jonathan and Marilyn begin kissing. Unable to control himself, Jonathan tries to get intimate with Marilyn. But Merlin did not feel like doing all this in public. She tells Jonathan several times to stop, but Jonathan does not listen. And in this affair, the door of his car opens. And both fall, which causes both Jean and Bunny to watch. And both start laughing. Then one day Jonathan gets a call from Marilyn. And she will tell that her parents are going out this weekend. So she invites Jonathan to be intimate at her house. When Jonathan hears this, so he jumps with joy. Then on the weekend, preparing Jonathan, Merlin reaches their house. And they are intimate. But after getting intimate, Merlin comes to know that Jonathan didn't use any kind of security. And thus he becomes intimate with Merlin. He says sorry to her, because this was his first time. So he didn't know. Then Merlin's father suddenly comes home. And Merlin somehow manages to drag Jonathan out the window, but sees his mother running away. The next day at school, Jean asks Bunny out on a date, but Bunny says no. Tonight you have to have dinner with your family. That's why she cannot come today. At night, Jean tries to sneak into Bunny's room. He then sees that Kenny has come over to Bunny's house for dinner. Meaning, Bunny lied to him, that Kenny is not her boyfriend. Jean feels very bad knowing this. And the next day Jean and Bunny start arguing about it. Bunny explains to her that was the name Kenny was called by his parents. It's not that he and she can't introduce Jean to his parents since he's not as wealthy as Kenny. On the other hand, Marilyn asks Jonathan to accompany her into the night. In the evening, Jonathan tells Jean that Marilyn asked him to the front for the night, and it was all because of Jean. And because of Jean, Jonathan has become quite confident. Only then Kenny also comes here with his friends. And he threatens Jean that he should stay away from Bunny. Jean gets very angry on hearing this. And he attacks Kenny. And then both of them start fighting. Jonathan also helps Jean in this fight and breaks her arm. And I withhold respect in store. And asks to leave from here. His father found out when Jean reached home that he has come home after getting beaten up. And he tells Jean to leave the house. After this, no one gets the Jean for many days, and he was also expelled from the school. And Jonathan and Bunny didn't even know where Jean had gone. With Jean not around, Kenny begins to bully Jonathan again. And then on the first day, Marilyn comes up to Jonathan in the canteen and talks to him that an old friend of his has come to town for a few days. And he asked Marilyn to prom night. Then on the day of the prom, Jean returns and Jonathan is overjoyed to see her again. Jean says he wants to meet Bunny and they both go to the prom party. Jean sees Bunny dancing with Kenny. Kenny comes up to them and starts insulting Jean again. But this time, Jean avoids him. And Jonathan goes with them. Seeing Jean, Bunny also follows her. But both had left before meeting Jean. They both go to the garden and start talking. Jonathan tells Jean that Bunny is in love with him. So Jean also says that he likes her too. But he cannot return to his home or to that school. Jonathan also admits that he never really loved Marilyn, he was simply attracted to her and wanted to be intimate with her. While talking, I fall asleep in the garden. And Jonathan takes his bike and brings Bunny with him. The next morning, after talking for a long time, Jean and Bunny decide that both will go somewhere far away together. Jean says goodbye to Jonathan and makes a promise that he would soon visit her. Jonathan goes home and tells Bunny's parents she's gone with Bunny Jean. So don't worry about that. The next day when Jonathan goes to Kenny's store, then Kenny insults her and Jean again. And now Jonathan hits Kenny's car repeatedly with his car to teach Kenny a lesson. And now seeing this form of Jonathan, Kenny also starts to fear him. After this, Jonathan named another girl Rosalie, asks her for a movie date, and it was the same girl, which Jonathan didn't find attractive at first, but he took a liking to Jonathan from there on. Rosalie then agrees to go on a date with him. And this is how this movie ends here. So this was the story of the movie Mischief. If you like the story, then watch the full movie, and if you want to see more such videos, then subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching full video. See you in the next video.